Hello, this is the lesson about plotting graphs part 2 about lines, or we can just say plotting linear graphs part 2. The objective of this lesson is to understand that an equation can represent a line and use the equation of a line to find points and draw the line. Here we have this coordinate plane. We know this is the x-axis, and we have here the y-axis, and this is the first quadrant, the second quadrant, the third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. Here we already know how to plot coordinates on a graph. So here is the point with coordinates -3, 1. So this is the correct way of writing coordinates with parentheses, and the first number is always the x-coordinate, and the second number is always the y-coordinate. So here's the point. So this point is really in the -3 of x-axis and the +1 of the y-axis. So this is the x-coordinate. It tells us how far along the x-axis the point is. And this is the y-coordinate. It tells us how far up or down the y-axis the point is. We also know that we can plot points that lie on a straight line like these points. So here, and look for a rule that connects the points. So we know already how to judge if those coordinates are really in a straight lines or not. We discussed that in the previous lesson, that for example, if you have a series of coordinates, let's say if the x coordinates have the same number, let's say if this is -5, this is also -5, another -5, and so on, the rest are also -5s, it means the coordinates are really in a straight line. Or even in the y coordinates, let's say, this example, let's say they have this different x coordinates here, but let's say the y coordinates are the same. Let's say -1 here, and then another -1 here, and also -1 here, and the rest of the coordinates are also -1s for the y coordinates. It means those coordinates are in a straight line. Another way of judging if those series of coordinates are really in a straight line, if the y coordinates have the same rule, let's say 2 more than the x coordinate, or the y coordinates is always, let's say, 5 less than the x coordinate. We discussed that in the previous lesson. Now let's move on. The y coordinate is always 4 more than the x coordinate, so the equation of the line is y is equals x plus 4. As you can see here, in this series of coordinates, the y coordinates is always 4 more than the x coordinate, because -1 is bigger than -5, and -1 is 4 more than -5. And also here, 0 is 4 more than -4, and also 1 is 4 points more than -3. That's why the equation of this line is y is equals x plus 4. In this lesson, we will learn how to use the equation of the line to find some points and plot the line. So here, how can we plot the straight line represented by this equation, y is equals 2x plus 1? Remember, this equation is in the form of y equals mx plus c. Your m is +2, your c is -1. And this x right here is positive. It has +2. If the x is positive, or the m in the formula y equals mx plus c, if your m is positive, then it is expected that your graph is going up, like from left to right, it's going up because it's positive. If this is negative, the x is negative, or the m is negative, let's say -2x, the graph is expected to go down. Always look from left to right. So from left to right, it will go down like this. It's always from left to right when you try to see if it's going up or going down. So here, this is a special type of equation called a formula. A formula describes the relationship between two or more variables. Here the variables are x and y. The formula tells us how to find the value of y if we know the value of x. Because remember, we need to plot down the point with the coordinates of x and the y. So we can choose any value we like for x. then choose the formula to work out the corresponding y value. This will give us a pair of coordinates that lies on the line. Choose a value of x. So we can choose any value of x. We can use 0, we can use -9, we can use +15. Even if you want, you can use -1,000 or +1,000,000. But those bigger number having coordinate outside this grid, if you have the x-axis having really long x-axis like -5, -6 up to here, -7, -10 or -100, and here +5 and then up to +10, +1,000 and so on. But our grid right here, or our coordinate, is limited. It has limited space up to +5 only here and -5 in this left side of x-axis, and upside of this y-axis up to +5 only and -5 of y-axis down. So we have to limit our number also to choose that we can plot the point within the range of this coordinate. So we have to choose like smaller number, maybe 0 or 1 or -1, but you can use any number. It will still give you the correct graph even if you choose different numbers. Like here, let's have this, my IMATS chose to use 0. So x equals 0 is usually an easy choice. So substitute the 0 into the equation here, y equals 2x minus 1, to work out the corresponding value of y. So if x is 0, then we will change the x in the equation as 0. So that will become now 2 parentheses 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 1 is just -1. So it means our y is -1. So like this. So when x equals 0, so we will change now our x to 0. So 2 times 0. I would advise you not to use this symbol x as your multiplication. Just use parentheses, because this x symbol tend to be you tend to confuse this x as a variable x instead of an x for multiplication. So instead of using this, we will just use a parenthesis. So 2 parenthesis 0, 2 times 0 equals 0, and -1. So it means the answer, the remaining here is just -1. So it means our x is 0, our y coordinate is -1. Then we can now write a coordinate like this. So our coordinate is parenthesis 0, comma, -1, because our x is 0, then our y is -1. Then we have that point already here, 0, -1. So we need another point so that we can draw a line. We need at least 2 points to draw a straight line, but it is advisable to if possible, to create 3 points to be sure we are doing a correct straight line. So here, choose another value of x. So any value will do, but picking values spread across the graph will help you to plot the line more accurately. So let's try x equals 3. So we need to substitute now the value of x to the equation. So you have here, if x equals 3, then we need to change the x to 3. Remember to use only parentheses here for multiplication, not the x. So 2 times 3 is equals 6, and then 6 minus 1 is equals 5. It means our y is 5. So we have now the new coordinate. Our x is 3, comma, our y coordinate is 5. So we have now the point here, 3 and then 5. So here, actually we can now connect this as a straight line, but again, it is recommended to have the third point, because maybe we don't know, sometimes we can find that one of the points are really wrong. So if you have the third point, then we can see that there must be something wrong if those 3 are not really aligned. So it's better to really have 3 points to see if there's some mistake in your work. Then for the third point, how many points do we need? These 2 points already give us the line, but it is safer to plot a third point to help us spot any mistakes. So choose one more value for x. So let's try x equals -2. So again, we need to substitute the -2 to the equation. So x is -2. We will change now our x to -2. So 2 parenthesis -2 minus 1. So 2 times -2 is -4. And -4 minus 1 will give us -5. So we have now our new coordinate. Our x coordinate is negative 2, our y coordinate is negative 5. Then we have that plot negative 2 here and then negative 5. And that's really a straight line. Let's connect that with ruler and pencil. And be sure to write the equation of that line beside the line, maybe here below or above or in the middle, for us to know that this line, the equation of this line is this. So you always write it there. Okay, so you can also plot the points in the table like this, so that you can see that if x is 0, the y is negative 1. If x is 3, the y is 5. If x is negative 2, y is negative 5. So it's just there. It is good practice to label the line with its equation. You can also record the coordinates as you go in a table of values like this. So here, I want you to pause the video if you want, so that you can copy this in your notebook. To plot a straight line graph from its equation, choose an x value, any value, as long as the value like within the range of your coordinate. Work out the corresponding y value after having the x value, and then plot the point, the coordinate x and the y coordinate. Repeat the steps above until you have the 3 points, and then join the points with a straight line. Remember, for the x value, it's always better to use a smaller number for the value. Let's say 0 or 1 or negative 1 or 2 or negative 2 to calculate easier. So remember to pick x values that fit on the axis. And if any of the y values turn out to be too big for the axis, you can choose a different x value. So let's move on. So a straight line has the equation y equals 3x minus 2. Find a point that lies on the line. Use whole number values and make sure the point will fit on the axis. So we cannot use a really big number here because our space here is limited. So we cannot have point beyond 5 or beyond negative 5. So let's use a smaller number. Okay, so let's say I will use negative 1. If I will use negative 1, let's say. If that is negative 1, then let's do the process. Let's say we have here the equation y is equals 3x minus 2. And then y is equals 3. You can copy this in your notebook. And then change our x into parentheses into negative 1 because we assigned x as negative 1. So negative 1 there. And then minus 2. So here, y is equals, here 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and then minus 2, and that will give us negative 5. So y is equals negative 5. So here we are going to put here y is equals negative 5. So negative 5. Let's mark it. So we're done. So we have to plot the point now. Our x is negative 1, which is here, and our y is negative 5, which is down right here. So that's it. So we have to pick another value. Okay, let's say I will think of 0. If that is 0, so again, I will write the process. Let's say I'm doing the process on a notebook. So y is equals 3, then, 3. And then I will change my x to 0 because I assigned 0 for x. So 0, parenthesis 0, and then copy minus 2. So here, 3 times 0 is 0, so that's 0 already. Then I will just copy minus 2, and the final answer is just minus 2 or negative 2. So our y is negative 2. So I will write it here, negative 2. So if x is 0, our y is negative 2. So that's the point right here. So it says x is 0, and then y is negative 2 right here. Okay, for the last point, we have now the third point. Let's say I will choose positive 1. Okay, positive 1. So if x is positive 1, again, so I have to write the process like this. So 3, and then 3x minus 2, and then I will change my x now to positive 1, so parenthesis 1 there, then copy minus 2, and then 3 times 2 is equals 3, and then minus 2. That will give us 3 minus 2 is equals 1. So if x is 1, our y here is also 1. So our point is 1, 1. So positive 1 for x and positive 1 for y. That's it. So if you, as you can see, those two lines are really straight line. Then we have to connect them with a straight line. And then remember to write the equation beside the line. So here, look at this equation. Here, our x here is negative. Our mx is negative, negative 2. So it is expected that the graph is going down. From left going to right, it will go down like this because it's negative. So here, notice that the x term is negative 2x. We need to take care with the substitution. So choose a value for x. So let's try x equals 0. So substitute y equals 1 minus 2x. So we will change x now to 0. So if x is 0, so you have now copy 1, copy minus, copy 2, and then again, do not use this x as multiplication. We have to use parentheses. So parentheses 0, we will change x to 0. Since negative 2 times 0 is 0, so the answer is just 1. So the coordinate is, if x is 0, your y is 1. So that's the point right there, 0 and 1. Next point, choose another value for x. So let's try x equals negative 2. So we will change now our x to negative 2. So we have here, if x is negative 2, so copy y equals, copy 1, copy minus 2, and then we will change x to negative 2, parentheses negative 2. You don't need to write this x right here. So negative 2, PEMDAS rule, you have to multiply first. So do not do 1 minus 2. Instead, we have to multiply first. Negative 2 times negative 2 will give you positive 4. And 1 plus 4, like this. Remember that a negative multiplied by a negative gives a positive. So that's why we have now 1 plus 4 is equals 5. So our coordinate is x is negative 2 and our y is 5. That's the point. Now we have now the third value. One value to go. Let's try x equals 3. Substitute into the equation y equals 1 minus 2x. So we will change now the x into 3 like this. So copy 1, copy minus 2, parentheses 3. Multiply first. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And then 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So if x is 3, our y is negative 5 like this. X is 3, our y is negative 5. Here's the point. Then we are going to connect that with ruler and pencil. And then we have to write the equation beside the line. Okay, so notice that this line slopes the other way, like going down. From left to right, it's going down. You can expect this when the x term is negative. Like in our previous example, the x terms are in positive. That's why our graph is from left to right, it's going up. Here it's going down. So here, again, our x term here is negative, negative 2x. It is expected that the graph is going down. So a straight line has the equation of y equals 1 minus 2x. Find a point that lies on the line. Use whole number values and make sure the point will fit on the axis. So again, I will use a lower number. Let's say I will start with 0. Okay, so if x is 0, so again, I will erase this. So I have here y is equals 1 minus 2x, and then y is equals copy 1, copy minus, copy 2, and then I will change x to 0, so parentheses 0. So here, copy 1 because we need to multiply first. Negative 2 times 0 is 0, so that is now just 0, so nothing there remaining. So just the remaining is just 1. So it means if x is 0, our y is 1. So again, we cannot use bigger number here, or else we can graph outside of the coordinate if we can use bigger number. So we have to use smaller number for x. So we can plot now x is 0 and y is 1, x 0, y is positive 1 right here. And then for the second value, again, I will just use smaller number. Let's say I will use a positive 1. Okay, so again, I have this equation right here. So y is equals 1 minus 2x. Then here equals copy 1 minus 2. I will change now my x to 1. So parentheses 1. And remember, multiply first according to PEMDAS rules. I will just copy 1 minus 2 times 1 is negative 2. Okay, and then here, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. So the answer is negative 1. If x is 1, our y here is negative 1. So that's it. So I will plot now the point. Our x coordinate is 1 right here, but our y is negative 1, so go down to the negative 1 or y. So that's the second point. We need the third point. Okay, let's say I will use negative 1 here. Okay, negative 1. I thought of using positive 2, but now I want negative 1. Okay, if that's negative 1, again, doing the process right here. So y is equals 1 minus 2. Since I will change my x to negative 1, so I will just do parentheses and then negative 1 parentheses. So again, we have to multiply first, so I will just copy the 1 here. And remember, we are multiplying the same negative. So negative 2 times negative 1 will give us positive 2. So there is now positive 2. And then 1 plus 2 is equals 3. So our y is 3 if x is negative 1. So it's now positive 3. So then we can plot the point. So x is negative 1 right here, but our y is positive 3 going up 1, 2, 3. It's here. Look, these 3 dots or points are really a straight line going down. From left to right, it's going down because our x term is negative. Then we have to connect that with a straight line, and then be sure to write the equation beside the line. Next, sometimes x and y are on the same side of the equal symbol like this. X and y together, and then the other side is just the number. So you can still choose an x value and substitute to find y, but there will be some rearranging to do during your process. So choose a value of x. So let's try x equals 0. So we need to change x to 0 now. So if x equals 0, so we need to change our x to 0. It's here, and then copy minus y equals 2. Since that is 0, so the remaining is just negative y equals 2. But you cannot have a negative y. Your y must always be positive. So there's a way to make this positive. You can do divide by negative 1 here to make it positive. Also divide this by negative 1, and then 2 divided by negative 1 will become negative 2. Or you can also think of multiplying by negative 1 here. Negative y times negative 1 will become positive y, and then 2 times negative 1 also will become negative 2. Because remember, what you do in the other side of the equation, you do as well in the right side of the equation. So in this case now, after simplifying, your y now is positive and your 2 here is negative 2. So if your x is 0, your y is negative 2. So that's the point. 0 for x, negative 2 for the y. Next, the second point, choose another value for x. Let's try x equals 2. So let's substitute the 2 for the x. So if x equals 2, we will change now our x to positive 2. And then remember to do inverse operation. We want y alone here. So this is positive 2. The inverse of positive 2 is negative 2. So you have to do minus 2 to become 0. Minus 2 also here. And this will also become 0. So we have now negative y is equals to minus 2. No more 2 here, remember, because we do minus 2 here. And then we have now 0, but still this is a negative. So we have to divide by negative 1 to cancel the negative. Also 0 divided by negative 1. But 0 divided by negative 1, it's still 0. So the answer is y equals 0. So here's the new point. If x is 2, our y is equals 0. That's the point. X is 2 and y is 0. Next, one more point. Let's try x equals negative 3. So we will change now our x to negative 3. So our x is negative 3 right here. Copy minus y equals 2. Again, inverse operation to eliminate the 3 because we want negative y alone in this side of the equation. Inverse of negative 3 is plus 3 or positive 3. So plus 3 right here to eliminate this. Also plus 3 here. So this will become now 2 plus 3. So you have now copy negative y, then 2 plus 3 is equals 5. But remember, this is negative y, so we have to divide by -1 to cancel the negative. Also here divided by -1, so positive 5 divided by -1 will become -5 right there. So if x equals -3, our y is -5. That's our new coordinate. So as you can see, our x here is positive. That's why our graph is from left to right going up. So that's the graph. Connect with a pencil and ruler, and then you have to write the equation beside the graph, maybe here at the bottom or on top. Right here the Ma'amats wrote the equation on top of the line to know that the equation of this line is this. Okay, last. So here a straight line has the equation, and in this case it's positive 5y equals 5. So find a point. So let's say if we are going to use 0, so if x equals 0. So let's say, okay, we are going to erase this. So we have now the new equation x plus 5y equals 5. Then I will change the x to 0. So I don't need parentheses anymore because we are just adding, we're not multiplying. So x is 0, and then copy plus 5y equals 5. Then there's nothing there. The 0, you don't need to copy again the 0. So the remaining here is just 5y equals 5. Now remember, we need to divide both sides by 5 to eliminate the 5 because we want y alone in this without the 5 there. So divided by 5 to cancel 5, and also here we can have 5 divided by 5, which is equals 1. So the answer is y is equals 1. If x is 0, our y is 1. So let's mark it. So x is 0, our y is positive 1, which is this. So let's put it there. And then for the next point, let's say I will use a 2. If I'm going to use 2. If I'm going to use 2, you can solve it mentally. If this is 2, then inverse operation of 2 is -2. This will become now 3, and then you have to divide by 5, which will give you a decimal, which is a decimal is allowed, but in this case of the Ma'amat example, we cannot use decimal because we cannot put decimal in this table. So we have to try use a number for x that the y will become a whole number, not a decimal. Let's use for x as -5. Okay, -5. We will use -5. So if that's x is -5, so we have now, again, we have x plus 5y equals 5. And then we will change now x to -5. I will put -5 there, plus copy 5y is equals 5. Now inverse operation of -5 is +5. So I will do +5 right here to eliminate this -5, and also +5 right here. So the answer now is, the remaining is now 5 because the -5 is eliminated. And then here will become now 5 plus 5. So again, simplify. 5y is equals 5 plus 5 is equals 10. And then we have to divide both sides by 5. Divide by 5 here, and also divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1 to eliminate the 5, so that only y will remain here. And 10 divided by 5 is 2. So y is equals 2. So we have now here y is equals 2. So if x is -5, our y is equals +2. So that's it. And what else? Let's say, let's mark it first. So we're done. We have now -5, and then our y is +2. X is -5, our y is +2 right here. So here, another is, what if we have, let's think of another value. Let's say our x is positive 5. We use negative 5 right here. What if we are going to use a positive 5 for x? Okay, let's say positive 5. So here, let's have the equation x plus 5y is equals 5. And then we will need to change our x to positive 5 right here. And then copy plus 5y equals 5. Then remember the inverse operation to eliminate the 5 right here. Inverse of positive 5 is negative 5. So minus 5 here, minus 5 also here. So 5 minus 5 is 0. So the remaining here is just 5y. And then also here, 5 minus 5 is also 0. So this is now 0. So again, remember, we have to eliminate the 5 here by dividing by 5. So divide by 5 to cancel 5, also divide by 5 here. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, so no more 5, there's just only y. And 0 divided by 5 is just 0. So it means if x is 5, your y is 0. So now we can mark it. So we have now the point, our x is 5, our y is 0. So then we can now graph, and then we can now write the equation, maybe right here or here. Maybe you have a question, Mr. Gregorio, you said if the x is positive, the graph is going up left to right like this. But here, why the graph is from left to right is going down? Because actually our x is not positive according to the formula y equals mx plus c. So if you're going to convert this into y equals mx plus c, this x must go there. So y equals mx right here, plus c. Our c is positive 5. Remember, if we are going to move the positive x in this side, the x will become negative. That's why it's going down, because literally following the formula y equals mx plus c, our x will become negative according to the formula of y equals mx plus c.